Alright, Axis and Allies. Today I hope to better explain how exactly transports work in the game of Axis and Allies. I've kind of read through some comments recently and it's still unclear as to how these units work. I used to have an older video as well explaining this, but there were some mistakes in it, so I hope to remake this and better explain the mechanics of transports. So here are the transports within Axis and Allies. I'm playing with Axis and Allies 1942 2nd edition. And these are just the figures. They look mostly the same with smokestacks, but the German transport is the least obvious of them all because it is more of a flatter design of the ship as compared to the other ships. Transports, like other ships, move 2 spaces. They cost 7 IPCs. They do not have any attack or defense value. But let's kind of talk about the main thing of a transport. A transport is used to transport units across large distances of water. So let's take a look over here at Japan. The rule states that you can take 1 infantry and 1 other land unit on a transport. So for example, we could have an infantry and an artillery, move them on the combat movement. We can pick them up and move them on the same turn, and deploy them here into this territory in China and attack that. This would be an amphibious assault, and that would be an alright, okay move to do. We can take, again, like I said, 1 infantry and 1 other land unit. That could be a tank and an infantry. Maybe we'll take the tank back. That could be an AA gun and an infantry. It could even be an infantry and another infantry, since that is considered as a land unit. You could not, however, board air units. You could not put a fighter on there. Fighters would have to be boarded onto an aircraft carrier or just flown off directly. And sea units you can't board on there either. You can also pick up units from multiple locations on the same turn. For instance, we could take this tank, board him on to this transport, move down here to the Philippines, and now we have the choice of taking 1 of these infantry if we want to. So we'll take 1 infantry, move them over here, and conduct an amphibious assault. So we did 2 pickups and an amphibious assault in the same turn during the combat movement. And so that's pretty much it for picking up units when it's your own power. You could also, for instance, just leave it up here. You don't have to move your transport, and you could have these units basically hop across. But it's a max per turn of 2 units per transport. So let's kind of jump over here to more of a combat that's not an amphibious assault. So here we have a German Navy and a British Navy. For the example's sake, we're going to say it's the German player's turn. They're going to conduct some combat right over here. The transport, again, does not have attack value or defense value. Therefore, it can't, well, let's see, how to explain this better. It cannot what's the word in English? It participates, that's the word, in the combat, but it cannot attack or defend. It also has to be taken last. It is the last unit to be taken within a sea battle. So therefore, you can kind of just set them off to the side. If you have a battle board, you can set them there, kind of like where the 0 or less would be. But in this case, you'd have to attack this. The odds are pretty good. Chances are they're going to win. Germany will take out these ships. Maybe we'll have some casualties. And then these ships would automatically be removed from the game. If an amphibious assault was going on, you could even bring in that transport and say it had a guy on it to attack here in French West Africa. You would have to still complete the combat first, removing all units from play of the enemy. So they would still probably win, maybe have some casualties, and then those would be removed, and then they could conduct that amphibious assault. However, I mean, I would not bring in this transport right here if it's just a normal sea battle like we saw before. It doesn't make any sense, and you're just going to risk a transport being destroyed. Obviously, you probably wouldn't go that far. You'd push retreat, but I would just leave it out until the non-combat movement, until you know that you've conquered the sea zone. Alright, one last thing with this. Say these transports are loaded with some units. We have 2 transports. So again, 1 infantry, 1 other land unit. Say the first one has that infantry and the tank, and the second one just has the AA gun. These units cannot participate in the battle. They are considered to be in storage and therefore do not have any attack or defense value. So therefore the battle would kind of proceed as before with just those two ships. They'll win, say they'll get destroyed again, and now these ships are automatically removed from the game of play, including the units on them. So that happened to be a great battle for the Axis because they were able to get rid of a bunch of IPCs without losing too many. So let's go ahead and talk about kind of movement with transports. Transports are considered to be a movement blocking ship. For instance, say we have that cruiser there in C-Zone 65. That US cruiser wants to move to 63. However, it cannot do so on this turn because there's a ship here in 64. You could move the cruiser in, and in this case, during the combat movement, combat would have to be conducted, even though that transport cannot do anything to destroy that other ship. It would just automatically be removed, and the ship would have to stay there. The rules talk about how once a unit has been in combat, it cannot move, unless obviously you retreat, unless it's a plane of some sort and has to go land in a friendly zone. But it doesn't necessarily specify about movement with ships. However, I play with people and they say, okay, well that ship has one movement left, you can move that cruiser one more time. But as far as I've read the rules, it still forfeits its moves once it conducts combat, and it would have to stay in that C-Zone for another turn. If we were going to C-Zone 58, no problem. I mean, you could sneak around the ship and go to the 57 and then 58, and that would be fine. So there's really no problem with that. And let's jump one last thing that is major with transports. This is with combined forces. I kind of talked about this in a different video, but we have this transport here. It's a friendly transport because it is a British transport, right? And we have some American troops. So technically, on the American player's turn, we can take these troops, move them onto the transport. However, we could not move the transport since it wasn't our own. Then, on the next round, when it's the United Kingdom player's turn, they can move the transport. For instance, a C-Zone 8, maybe we'll just leave it there. They'll bring some protection in. I don't know what they'll do. Maybe they had a battle before then too. And now those units are still on the transport. You'll have to wait until the next United States player's turn, which is in that same round as the United Kingdom player's turn. And then they can finally unload them. It is kind of inefficient to do this because it takes double the time to transport units across. In my opinion, it's better just to get an American transport in order to transport units across. However, it can be useful if we had this here at the United Kingdom and we wanted to get these units into Paris. We could use this transport on our turn to basically hop across. Again, remember the restriction: one infantry and one other land unit per turn. And so they're not per round, but per turn. So technically, the United Kingdom could use this, and the United States could use this transport in the same round. Well, I hope that this was easy to understand and answered questions revolving transports within the game of Axis and Allies. It has been a little while since I've uploaded videos. I've actually been living in Europe for the past couple of years. I lived in Ukraine as well as Moldova. And so I hope to get back during this holiday season and make some more videos for you. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.